This is Get Back Season, baby.
And we're back again, guys. It is Get Back Season, back again with another episode. And as you guys can see, we're in a completely different environment to what we're usually are in. Currently, we are now in London, and we are joined by Jamelia. For those who do not know, she is the owner of Treasure Chest, and I'd want you to just explain for the viewers what that is for those who may not know.
Sure. So Treasure Chest is Europe's largest subscription box for those with naturally curly hair. So each month we introduce our subscribers to new products. So literally your entire wash day, from shampoo, conditioner, leave-in conditioner, oil/gel, everything that you need to take care of your hair for at least a month.
Yeah, and as you guys can see, the whole backdrop of a lot of products. Like, I'm a guy, so I don't really know much, but I can see like your Cantus, your, what else? That's all I kind of know. Shea Moisture, and all of these brands, like, especially if you're within the black culture, you understand that these brands are huge brands that obviously do a lot for your hair. First of all, I just want to thank you for your time, obviously being here. It's a Saturday. I'm sure you're busy and probably got a million trillion other things to actually do, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you guys
for just
coming down.
giving us your time. It's perfect. So where do we start? Because as most podcasters, I'd like to think that they do their homework. So I've been watching like your previous podcast interviews for like
Really?
I've been watching your previous podcast interviews for like the past week. I've been making sure that I don't want to ask like the same questions that everyone tends to ask. But the only one that I kind of want to kind of set the scene with, where did this all come from? Like this whole idea, could we start from the beginning, like from childhood? What was your childhood like? Were you always infatuated by hair products, or like how was it?
Yeah, so where am I meant to be looking, by the way? Am I looking at you or am I looking at
You can look at anywhere because the camera's picking it all up. That's all right.
So from as young as like 3 or 4, I was always playing with hair. So I was playing with my mum's hair. Then when I went to nursery, I was always like braiding or unbraiding the girl in front of me's hair. I was always just playing with hair.
Yeah.
Then when I was like 7 or 8, I used to like spend so much time in the bathroom just reading the back of products just because I was curious about the directions.
Mm-hmm.
But they were never accurate. It was always like use like a pea-size amount of conditioner. And I was like, whose hair is that going to serve? A pea-size amount of conditioner. True. So I was like, okay, something's a bit weird here. Mm-hmm. Then I would probably fast forward to my teen years when I used to straighten my hair consistently. Like I didn't think there was any other way to wear my hair but
breakage and damage.
Damage, dryness, split ends, heat damage, literally everything.
Yeah.
And then one day I went to a salon. I actually wish I could remember which salon it was. And the lady washed my hair and she was like, oh, you've got such lovely hair. Like, why don't you wear your hair in its natural texture? And I was like, what? What do you mean wear it in its natural texture? I'll look about 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as a girl in your young teens, you always want to look older. So for me, I felt like straight hair made me look older and natural hair just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
But it kind of stuck with me, her comment about, oh, why don't I wear my hair out? And so by the time I got to uni or like approaching uni, I started to research natural hair and I was like, what is it about black hair that stops it from growing?
Yeah.
Because my hair, when I was straightening it, it was literally just staying at this length. It would not surpass this length. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what is it about black hair that doesn't grow? And then I realized, oh no, it isn't that black hair doesn't grow. It's just that we don't know how to take care of it.
We don't know the right stuff.
To take care of it. And so as I was researching like how to care for my hair, I came across a massive community in the US, which is like these black women with like such full hair, long hair, healthy hair. And I thought, oh my God, wow, like black women can actually grow their hair. It's just that we need the means to be able to do so.
Yeah.
And so I started ordering products online on Amazon and I was literally spending about £80 every month. While I was a student, what I should have been using to buy food, I was spending on hair products.
Noodles, munching on noodles.
I was like, I need to figure this out because like I want my hair to be healthy and full.
Yeah.
And then I had the opportunity as part of my degree to take a placement year.
Yeah.
And in that placement year, I went to Beijing for a month and then I went to New York.
What degree is this?
I done business and international relations.
Okay, yeah.
But I only wanted to do business and international relations so that I could travel because I love traveling. So when I got to Beijing, I was there for a month on an internship. I think I was like one of maybe 3 black people.
Wow, that's
Probably in the whole
big
country at the time.
congratulations for that. Yeah.
And when I was there, somehow I lost my brush and I ran out of hair products. This is like midway through. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So then I went to a Russian supermarket across the road.
Yeah.
And I was searching the aisles. Obviously, there was nothing that I recognized. And then I saw Herbal Essences conditioner and I thought, you know what, this is going to have
Saving grace.
And then
saving grace.
I was looking for a bristle brush because I lost my brush and I was like used to slicking my hair in a bun.
Yeah.
No brushes to be found. So then I had to buy a shoe brush and use that to do my hair.
Was it a hard shoe brush, soft shoe?
brush.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, wow, this is a problem. Like if you're a black woman, mixed race woman, multi-ethnic woman, in somewhere outside of the UK and the US, like you're gonna struggle. Even in the UK, you can struggle.
Yeah.
And then directly after Beijing, I went to New York, and there I was there for just under a year, and obviously it was the complete opposite. So New York, I had like an abundant amount of products to choose from.
Yeah.
All of these brands started by black women, brands grown by black women, like there was just so many options. And there was this new craze of subscription boxes. So there was subscription boxes for black beauty, subscription boxes for dog food, subscription boxes for socks, makeup,
wow.
literally anything you can think of in New York, in America at the time, there was a subscription box. Then when I got back to the UK, I was like, if on the way back, I remember saying to myself, if there's not a subscription for natural hair when I get back to the UK, I'm just going to launch it. Keeping in mind that I had been interning for free for that whole time. So I was like, first things first, I need to earn some money. So I had like a month to spare, and I applied for an internship at BlackRock Asset Management, which is the largest asset management firm in the world.
Yeah.
And they had a business operations position.
And you got it.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to revise for it like I would an exam.
Yeah.
And go in there, be super charismatic, and I got it.
You need to teach me because, like, I feel like being a graduate and getting all of these opportunities, that's really, really good.
Yeah. To be fair, I do feel like I set myself up well by having those international experiences. But speaking to you, you've got a wealth of experience.
You know what it is for me?
You just need to know how to flex it.
Yeah, I need to flex it. I always say, like, I've spoken to a few people that are in that reviewing CV job type roles, and a lot of them say, like, I have a lot of experience, but my issue is I don't know how to sell myself. Like, I don't know how to, in an interview stage, perfect, I'll smash out the park. Yeah. But on a CV, I don't know how to basically say, you need me, like, type of thing. So that's like my struggle, if that makes sense.
Fair.
But I'll get there. So anyways, you got through the asset management firm.
Yeah, so I was there. I was meant to be there for a month. They asked me to stay for 3 months. I was like, why not? I need to earn some money.
Yeah.
Then I went back to uni for my final year, and they had offered me the graduate position. So when I finished uni, I already had a job. So I went straight into that job.
Yeah.
Was on the graduate scheme for 2 years before I started to get a bit of an itch. And I was like, oh, like, I've still got this idea about the subscription box. I've still not launched it. What should I do? And so I was like, do you know what? Let me ask my family and friends what they think of it and if they would be willing to pay for it. And they were like, yeah, like, it sounds like a good idea. I actually read a book at the time called The Mum Test, which basically said, like, when you have a business idea, your family and friends are always going to agree with you.
Of course.
Like, they're always going to say, it's an amazing idea. I'll definitely buy it. But you'll know that your business has better chance of success if you can get strangers to buy into the idea and 100%. Actually part with their cash.
Because there's only so much that your family can buy again. But before we go further, in regards to your graduate scheme, do you mind if I ask what was your salary on that, like, at that point?
I think when I started it was 34k.
That's really good. The only reason I ask because I feel like, you know how you said when you got into that position, after a few months, you still had that itch to kind of have something of your own, if that makes sense, or at least start. I feel like as graduates or people that are in uni, we look so far ahead and sometimes we focus strictly only on the money, if that makes sense. So you being in a position at a young age that you're managing, let's just say to earn around 30, 34, like K a year, to someone else, that's like really good, if that makes sense. There's graduates that's their ideal like role when they get out to be earning that. And I feel like sometimes it's easy to just settle. So I find it like not bizarre, but it's great in a way to hear that even though you are in a job that surely it's a big company, you could grow, you could have a career, but even when you're in the midst of all of that, you still kind of wanted to start something of your own?
Yeah, and to be honest, there's some more that I can say about that, in that when I decided that I wanted to try something different,
Yeah.
I spoke to my family about it and my friends not my friends, I spoke to my family about it, and my mum was like, no. Like, my mum's a teacher, then a
Okay.
head teacher. So, as you know, teachers don't earn very well.
My
but
mum's a teacher as
Oh,
well.
really?
Yeah.
They don't. They deserve better salaries.
Yeah.
But they invest a lot of time and emotion into their role.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, Jamelia, do you know how long it took me to earn the salary that you're starting on?
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, you can maybe later on in your life you can try, but for now, like, you should just give this a go.
Yeah.
And then before I knew it, my aunties were calling like, "Hey Jam, I heard that you're thinking of giving up your role," and I was like, "Oh my god!"
How did that make you feel? Like having that conversation with your mum, and your mum kind of just like reiterating, like, okay, just stick towards like a career rather than go into that. How did that make you feel when you kind of pitched it to her?
I would say misunderstood and like underestimated.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm very stubborn anyway, so
Yeah.
like, you can say what you want, but
But you're still
ultimately, I'm
gonna
gonna do what I want to do.
Because I feel like in the Black community, I feel like at times it's more of a thing where we're taught to education, make sure you get a good education, get into a good career, whereas our creative side and our creativeness tend to go unnoticed. And even if it is noticed and we want to kind of pursue something, it's never really encouraged to kind of be like, okay, you know what, like give it a try. Whereas like, for example, I've got like a lot of friends that are in the Asian community and whatnot. When I chat to them, that's like their main priority. Like their parents push them like, get your education, but go start a business straight away, if that makes sense. Whereas while I'm growing up, I never really had business conversations, if that makes sense.
I never had business conversations at all, and to be honest, it wasn't even really my aspiration. Now that I look back, I'm like, oh, I was quite entrepreneurial from a really young age, but I didn't have examples of women in business. I didn't have any. So it wasn't really an option. I kind of not fell into it, but ultimately...
When it's your calling, and I feel like when it's your purpose, it doesn't matter, as you said, it doesn't matter, even if you're in the lane that people may perceive as your lane, doesn't matter. When you have that purpose for it, and you have that calling, you could be placed anywhere. You're still going to want to pursue that specific path, if that makes sense. So going back to your aunties now, so they started calling you, whatnot.
Like, Jan, I heard that you're thinking of giving up your role. Like, I think maybe hold off. And so I did hold off for like a year.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was like, no, like I can't. I was actually starting to have like anxiety attacks, which sounds very dramatic, and I can be very dramatic.
It's not dramatic.
But I started to have anxiety attacks. Like, I remember one day I couldn't find my car key and I couldn't find my door key, which meant that I couldn't leave the house to get to work. And I just burst out into tears. And I was like, what is going on? I was losing mad weight because I was balancing, like trying to like formulate the business, get my early customers in and still go to work, which meant I was averaging like 3 hours sleep a night, which
I was just about to say,
anxiety.
In regards to time wise, I feel like, you know that thing with Molly May where she said, we all have the same 24 hours. I feel like it's kind of true in that aspect, because if you want something to really work, there's certain stuff that you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of sit on the fence. Like, I get what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
And logically and practically, we all do have 24 hours. But with money, you can buy time.
100%.
Like, Molly May is not spending her Saturday morning cleaning her house from top to bottom.
No.
She's paying someone else to do it, and she's pursuing other business endeavors. Like, money actually buys you time, and that's the reality of it.
100.
So we have the same 24 hours in a day, but what we can do with them are very, very different.
So when you were starting your business, what did your, let's just say 24 hours look like? Because let me guess, you kind of had, obviously you had your 9 to 5 or... And
it wasn't even 9 to 5. I was working in portfolio compliance. So I was there at 7 a.m. and leaving at 7 p.m.
Wow. And were you working down in London at the time?
Yeah,
I know London times are busy, because when I was on the management team for the Cricket World Cup in 2019, and I would be in the office, let's just say, for like 7 a.m. and I'm getting home at 8, 9 p.m., if that makes sense. So I understand like it's busy. So let's just say you're in the office now, and then what does the rest of your day look like?
So I should be there for 7, really. I'm getting there like 7:30, 7:45. Waking up at 5, literally as soon as I wake up, I'm grabbing my laptop, flipping it open, working for at least an hour, getting in the shower, getting ready, going to work, coming back from work, opening my laptop, literally staying there until like 1, 2, 3 a.m. depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Sleep as long as I can. Wake up 5, go again. Literally back to back, back to back, back to back. Weekends, same thing. Like if it's my friend's birthday, I'm going out. If not, you'll find me in my house working on my business.
So it was like 100% full steam. Like I need to get this going, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So when it came to that, then like obviously, what was like friendship groups like? Because I feel like from my experience, when you kind of have idea and let's just say it's a business, obviously the business requires a certain amount of time. And with friendship groups, there's always someone's birthday or gathering or some sort of link up. So when it comes to all of those things, how did it come to managing time? Like were friends kind of distant when it comes to you, like saying, I may not be able to make it today or whatnot? Did anything break down, or did you have like a supportive network of group friendship around you?
Yeah, no, I had I've got amazing friends.
Really good friends?
Yeah. Like,
that's good.
My now husband, who was my then boyfriend, also super supportive. Like, no one took it personally.
That's really good. And I feel like that's hard to find. Because a lot of the times when you want to do something, like people may support you in the beginning, but when they realize everything else that comes with it, sometimes it's easy for someone to take it the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I do think it has a lot to do with, 1, the length of my friendships.
Yeah.
And then 2, like my personality type. So length of my friendships, most of my best friends, I've known them since I was like 2, 3.
Oh, wow.
So I've literally known them like my entire life. One of them we met at nursery. The other one, our grandparents were best friends. And so we were both born in the same year.
Continuing the tradition.
Yeah, literally. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. And then my personality type, like even if it wasn't business, even when it was my SATs, my friends were not seeing me. Like they know, Jamilia's not coming out.
Focus.
Yeah, I'm acing my exams.
Plus your mum's a teacher.
My mum's a teacher. It was a non-negotiable.
It makes
but
sense.
it's like, you won't see me. They would literally, my birthday's May the 7th, and I think we had like exams May the 6th, May the 8th. They came round to celebrate my birthday, and I was like, why are you here? Like, I'm studying for my exams. Like, thanks for the thought, but like, how long are you not going to be here? Because I want to study.
See, that's good. You strike me as a person, like, once you got your mind set on something, it's just like tunnel vision all the way. Like, don't distract me. I'm going to get it, if that makes sense.
And I think that is easier the younger you are, because like, what real responsibilities do I have when I'm like a teen? What real responsibilities did I have early 20s? Not many. So yeah, I think my friends were used to like, if Jamilia's doing something, she's doing something, and she actually doesn't want to be bothered, but it's not personal.
No, that's quite good. When it comes to like going forward then and growing within that space, as you said, you already had like that friendship group, which I feel that was important. But starting your business, was there any like fear? Because like the other day I put up something on my Instagram and I kind of put like, are you comfortable within your position, or are you taking risk in life? Because I'm a big believer that in life you have to take calculated risk, because we only get pretty much one shot. So was it a situation where obviously you know you want to do it, but was there any sort of like hesitancy in your head that thought, you know what, should I not? Should I do it? No. Or was it just, you know what, I'm going to go? I
knew I should do it. Did I know? Yeah, the only uncertainty came with like, do I quit my job to do it full time? Yeah. And then I was like, again, calculated risk. I'm early 20s. I don't have any real responsibilities. I've got good experience. I've got good grades. I can get another job.
Worst case. That was literally. Was that like your worst case scenario?
Yeah, like, and one thing that I always say is like, entrepreneurship is very sexy. It's very attractive. Everyone wants to do it. People, I think there's like this narrative that like 9 to 5s, you need to get out as quick as you can. I actually don't buy into that. Like, I have so much respect for people that work 9 to 5s, first of all, because it requires people working 9 to 5 to actually run a business. Secondly, I was really respectful of the company that I was working at, because I just remember thinking, I might need to go back. Yeah. So I'm not going to have some like bossy exit where I'm like creating some viral video.
In a bit.
Yeah, like,
you won't see me again.
Literally, I'm not doing that, because I actually don't know. Like, I might have to be very humble and go back and say, oh, you see that position?
Can I have it, please?
Is it still available?
Yeah.
So, that wasn't the thing. I think one thing that I actually haven't spoken about on a podcast before, when I was in university, one of my, trigger warning, when I was in university, one of my best friends at university committed suicide.
Oh, wow. Sorry about that.
And that for me was like such a huge, like, it like shook my whole life, but also shook my perspective. Because I was like, we really do have one chance at life and you make of it what you want to make of it.
True.
And so I was like, what am I scared of? Like, if I quit this job, am I going to die? No, I am not. Okay, I'm going to do it. And that is literally the way that I think about a lot of things. Like, okay, am I going to die if this goes wrong? No. All right, cool. Let me do it. And then figure it out from there.
That's actually a really good perspective to have, because I think we're pretty much the same. Like, for me, what kind of keeps me going in the sense of like taking risk and like just continue to push forward is my biggest fear in life is not trying, if that makes sense. I don't, like, so far I'm lucky enough that I can hold my hand on my heart and say I have no regrets in life. Like, I've always done the things that I wanted to do. But my biggest fear is getting to a point where I'm like, I don't know, in my 50s, 60s, and I turn back and I'm like, I should have done this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to kick myself because I'm like, why didn't I? I got a perfect example. When I was 15, I started like my clothing brand and whatnot at the time. I don't have it anymore. I kept on moving about countries, so it just wasn't ideal. But I had this idea at the time to basically draw like a character in a sense, like on like the t-shirt, for example, but the character would be wearing the clothes of the brand, if that makes sense. And I told myself, I was like, nah, I'm not feeling it. I am feeling it. I asked a couple of people, they really liked it, but I was still like 50-50. I took my time. And then literally 2 months later, I found someone's Instagram that started it, and they were selling. Then I saw Ralph Lauren create, like, they had like their bear or whatever wearing the polos, and I was like, oh crap. And then Palm Angels came out and they had like the bear sitting down, because at the time the character was a bear as well. That's what makes it really more annoying. The bear was sitting down and it was wearing Palm Angels. And I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, I should have probably started it, because that could have potentially been me, if that makes sense.
Not to be like super woo-woo, but I really have this strong theory that like ideas are given to us, and if we don't act on it, they're given to someone else.
100%.
They have to come to fruition in the world some way, shape or form. So same, like I've had, and well, probably not entirely appropriate because it's all men here, but you've got a girlfriend, so you'll understand. Sometimes some dresses you can't wear bras, right? So you have to use tip tape.
Yeah.
And at the time there wasn't a thing called tip tape. Like we were literally using tape to tape our boobs so that we could wear dresses. And I thought, oh, like I should create a tip tape brand. Sat on it. Before I know it, there's a million. But that's actually what happens. Like if you don't act on it, it's given to someone else and they execute it. It won't be the same as the way that you would.
Yeah. But
I don't think that ideas just wait for you. I don't think ideas wait for you.
Nah, 100%.
I think it's up to you to act on it when you can, as quickly as possible.
Nah, 100%. Because I feel like it's one of those things where when it comes, you need to take action, if that makes sense. Because I feel like, for me personally, I'm a Christian, so I feel like God blesses you at times with like, let's just say you may pray for something, may not come packaged in the way that you want it, but he'll bless you with it. But you don't see it as what you want, so you're just like, oh nah, that's not it. You brush it aside, but then someone else gets that blessing, you're like, that was mine, but you didn't take hold of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I completely agree.
That's quite good. So I remember you briefly touched on that. Obviously, you're married now, right? So when it came to your partner, obviously you said that you've known him for like years. When you were starting the brand, like how was that in the sense of like relationship wise when it came to, let's just say, because obviously starting a brand, you're busy time wise. How did it come to like time management, whether that's date night, but then business and stuff like that? How did that go?
Not good.
Not good.
There wasn't any balance, really.
Yeah.
I think, fortunately for me, he works in tech.
Okay, that's great.
So at the time, he was running his own business. So there was huge upside because, like, he just gets it. Like, 24 hours of your day is pretty much consumed working on the business, if not then thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't any pressure to, like, put everything down, let's go out. And also, we didn't have no money. Like, we're both starting businesses. Where so we're going, really.
All your money's down to them.
Yeah. So there wasn't pressure for that. I think now that I look back, I'm like, we should have done a better job of, like, protecting our relationship and, like, prioritizing it.
Yeah.
But equally, maybe it was just a sacrifice that we had to make. So, yeah, there weren't any cute date nights.
Yeah. Because I feel like when you have, like, a relationship, I always say it's very key, especially when, let's just say you both are go-getters and starting something. I always see it like this, like you have to be like each other's teammates. So like if one of you's fall down, you're going to pick them up. If you fall down, he's gonna pick you back up. And I feel like the communication part is like important, because I was speaking to my fiance the other day, and I was saying like,
sorry, I referenced her as girlfriend, fiance.
I was speaking to my fiance the other day, and like we were talking, and I was talking like forward thinking. So I was like, oh, when I get into this realm of like my life and whatnot, and I'm busy and this and that, I was like, how would we handle it? Like we're always like having these forward thinking conversations. And she's like, I don't know, And I was like, I guess it's about making time, but sometimes you're so chased, like being like coming from a place that you may have not always had the things that you wanted. It's easy to get, when the money's rolling in, it's easy to prioritize the money over like the relationship, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was saying to her, I was like what would happen if like, do we need to make sure our communication is stronger and stuff like that? Like we always have like the weirdest conversation. So
It's true though.
So
like, that's absolutely
when you're going forward, like with the brand, and as the brand obviously got bigger and it was taking up more of your time, was there any times where the relationship just like both of you just said, look, like it's a bit rocky at the moment, or was it just plain sailing?
Absolutely not. No. No, I think timing worked out really well.
Yeah.
Because, well, I say that, but that maybe wasn't the right language. The timing coincided with like life events for him that required him to really step up in his family and take care of his family, like his immediate family.
Yeah.
And so both of us, like, he was drawn by that and his time was being eaten up by that. My time was being eaten up by business. So it's not like we both had like this free time to even like miss, oh my God, we don't do this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that we did do frequently, and I don't know how we afforded it, was holidays. Like there was always like a really nice holiday once a year.
Yeah.
Somewhere completely different to completely switch up our environment. But away from that, like, yeah, he was building his business. He was taking care of his immediate family. I was building my business.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were both like trying to keep our heads above water.
Water. Nah, I could imagine. So when it comes to like, obviously behind us, we see so many different brands and stuff like that. Obviously, with you not, let's just say, having no prior experience to having like your own business.
Yeah.
Where did you start? How did you learn to basically build what you build now, like when it comes to reaching out to brands and partnerships? Because I feel like, especially to those that are listening, whether it's the younger men or the younger women that potentially want to be in a space of having their own stuff, I feel like the scariest part is, where do I start and what do I do? How did you figure out that route, if that makes sense? Or is it just trial and error?
A few different ways. So I have a distinct memory of me, like the day after I handed in my notice. Treasure Trust has about 30 customers at this point. So I've got people that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And I just had like this massive calendar in front of me and it was just blank. And that was the first time that like I had this much free time. And I was like, what do I do with this? And it was so intimidating. Funny enough, I'm actually working on a calendar for that reason, because what I really mastered was like time management.
Yeah.
But I remember looking at the calendar and thinking, oh my God, like what am I going to do next? And I was like, okay, what is the next logical thing that I need to do? Well, I need to speak to a brand. Okay, how do I do that? And I literally worked backwards from everything. How I got the confidence to even approach brands was during my time when I was interning for free in New York.
Yeah.
I was working for a guy called BJ Coleman, and his clients were like Tatiana Ali, Vivica Fox, Tyson Beckford. Wow. And he asked me to help him build pitch decks to like get food sponsorship, drink sponsorships.
It's well connected, yeah.
Yeah. He's actually coming to London this month, so we'll catch up. But yeah, I remember he taught me how to pitch to brands, basically. Yeah. It was very different in the UK because no one knew what subscription boxes were. Black brands were absolutely not featuring their products in subscription boxes as they stood at the time. Yeah. So it was a lot of cold calling, thinking about, okay, cool, what did I include in that pitch deck? Let me do it again. I exhausted every communication channel, from like email to cold calling to like going to events and talking to people. Yeah. I remember like dipping into my savings to go to Atlanta, to go to a hair show, to meet these brands face to face, because I was like, these brands aren't coming to me. Yeah. Like I absolutely have to go to them. So it was me, one of my best friends. Thankfully, I've got family in Atlanta, so we stayed there. Yeah. And every day we was just out talking to brands, because I was like, this needs to happen.
That's crazy. So was it more of a situation where Were you just emailing from scratch saying like, this is the idea I have, I'd want to partner with you? Is it just as easy, like not easy, but is it just as a simple email, or is it like a lot more like
No, there's
after
a lot
that?
more. So thankfully we had a landing page before we had the actual website, and that was for me to do like market research. Who would be interested? How much would they be willing to pay? Where in the UK do they live?
Yeah.
And thankfully one of the brands that signed up, no, a brand signed up for that, as well as like regular consumers.
Yeah.
And it was someone from Palmer's. So that was like the first brand that I ever worked with. And that's why it's the brand that like I
Old type
stand
Palmer's.
by.
Been using Palmer's since I could remember.
But they're honestly like such an authentic and genuine brand. They were like, hey, love the idea, would love to speak more. And so yeah, from there I built a relationship with them. But obviously that's one brand, one box. I've got to deliver 11 other boxes that year. So I need 11 other partnerships.
Yeah.
And so I started to reach out to brands like, hey, recently worked with Palmer's, always name drop.
Yeah.
Find a deck attached.
Yeah.
A bit about the brand. This is what we're doing, and kind of just like built up from there. But it's literally like social proof as far as like links to like they can see the active work that we're doing.
Yeah.
I was really focusing on community building by events as well, so I was able to link to that content.
Yeah.
And then yeah, just like, hey, I worked with this brand, this is what we were able to do with them, and just constantly providing evidence of the value of what you're working on.
That's quite good. Like, I feel like there's a lot of networking that's involved, if that
So
makes
much.
sense. And I always say like that's important. Like on my Instagram, I always speak that because before I started this podcast, anyone that knows me well, I'm naturally like an introvert. I never used to talk to anyone. Like,
Oh, so nice.
yeah, my dad's in the military, so I always used to move around a lot. So I kept on going to different places, and then I got fed up of making friends because I'm just gonna leave. So I just said, you know what, it's probably best to just not talk to anyone, and then that way I don't have to like feel like I'm leaving someone, if that makes sense. And then as I got like older and I like the moving slowed down, they're still a bit busy, but it slowed down. Started talking a bit more, but I was a lot more reserved. And like when I started this podcast, it always taught me like networking. That's what kicked in, because I remember I sat down, I was like, okay, how can I grow it? How am I able to get this? I said, you know, I'm just gonna have to reach out to people. So I remember I started like, I always tell people Instagram is a big place. Like if you use it properly, you'll be able to get responses. I always say, don't feel like everybody is untouchable just because they may have a blue tick. And the first time I realized that, so I remember when I was doing A-levels, I studied media studies was one of the parts, and we had to, for one of our assignments, we had to shoot a documentary.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah, and I've always been a fan of like music and the music industry. That's like that's my bag in a sense. So I remember I was like, okay, music industry. Instantly, even though I was young, I was only like 15, 16 at the time, I was like, let me go reach out to celebrities on Instagram. I don't know what possessed me. I was like,
It's like young naivety.
yeah, I was like, Krypton Conan, hey, blah, blah. I like drafted like a message. I was like, oh, hi, I'm just a A-level student, blah, blah, blah. I reached out to Wretch32. I reached out to Chipmunk, like so many different artists, Pagey Cakey and stuff like that. And then one of them actually, I got two replies. So I think it was Wretch32's manager replied, and he was there like, oh, unfortunately, you won't be able to do it. He's busy, blah, blah, blah. So to me, that gave me just the fact that I got a response. I was like, oh, I got excited.
Yeah.
And then the one that really got me excited, because at the time, I think she was on Waterloo Road. I think that's the right one. Pagey Cakey replied. And she was like, oh, yeah, this is sick. I'd love to.
So lovely.
Yeah, she was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to jump on. And my excitement was through the roof. I was like, yeah, this is so cool. And she was like, message my manager and we'll go from there and see, because it wasn't up to her at the time if she can just fully jump on. Message her manager. Long story short, it didn't end up happening. Her manager was like, oh, she's busy doing this, doing that. So unfortunately, we won't be able to do it. But long story short, I think I ended up reaching out to this Birmingham rapper. I think his name's Big Dog Yogo. I think that's the name. I ended up reaching out to this Birmingham rapper, and he said, yeah, he'll do a bit of just like a little short interview or whatnot.
Nice.
But then it gets worse. So then that didn't happen. Okay. So I remember I had to basically role play and act like I was an artist, and then I was interviewing from a perspective of being an artist. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So film the documentary. So that was like my first like idea of networking. Nice. But then when I got in the podcast, that's when I think it really truly kicked in, because then I started like researching people that are brand owners or businesses. And then luckily, Mike, I always say I may be quiet, but I know a lot of people through different industries. So I was able to reach out to certain people, and I was like, each time you got to know, I kind of learned how to restructure what I was saying to kind of make it more presentable. And then eventually, I think now it's probably the easiest it's been for me when it comes to networking, because like I'll instantly write a message. Like some people write generic messages, but every single message I write is personal to that person, if that makes sense. And I wouldn't say it's like it just comes like this now, but it's a lot more easier. And that's one thing I always have the conversation with either my work colleagues, and I always say like, if you want to start a business, just message people to just to say, can I learn? If anything, if you need help, I'll do it for free or whatnot. Because those things, I always say, experience is something that you can't lose. So it's always important that you network in order to build. Because I always say, what your net worth is your net worth, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's important. So when it comes back like to your brand then, and you're traveling over to America and whatnot. So when you started getting those responses, how did you actually like feel about it? Was like, when did you realize this can actually go somewhere, if that makes sense?
I would say before I even took it full time.
Really?
Otherwise I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like I knew it had legs.
Yeah.
Because when we worked on, and we still work on, a pre-order system. So you pay for your box and then your box arrives.
Yeah.
So when that first set of orders when we received the first set of orders, there was an order from South Africa.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was like, what in the world? Like, I built this for women in the UK. Not only have women in the UK signed up, but someone in South Africa has signed up. And that for me was a signal like, okay, cool, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just a local problem, even though I thought I was solving a local problem. Now I know that I'm solving a global issue.
Yeah.
And so that gave me the confidence to be like, okay, cool, no, this is something, I'm onto something here.
That's good. That's very important. So would you say like having self-belief, because I feel like a lot of like, especially the younger generation that are watching, I feel like we're always on social media, because you can always see the end goal of someone else's success. I feel like we don't see what people go through behind the scenes. So would you say like that self-belief part, or having that self-belief, if you go into something thinking you're going to fail, would you say 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to fail? Whereas if you go in there thinking, let's just say, you know what, I'm going to smash it, it's going to be good, it's going to be great, like you'll get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or I think even better, like I'm either going to smash it or I'm going to have a great experience and I'm going to learn so much.
Yeah.
Like
that's important.
This, like, what is failure? Because you even said like you were reaching out to people when you're getting a no.
Yeah.
It's fine because you were able to take that and reevaluate how you were reaching out to make sure that you could send a message that was actually successful and got you the end result. So it's like, yes, either you win or you learn. There's no real losing.
No, that's very true. I always say like it's important to just have a positive attitude towards things. Like I always tell people, like when I talk to even my close circle or whatnot, they always say like, Rich, I'm not naive, but they're like, you live in a different world, because I see it like most days I'm like a perky, like happy person or whatnot, but it's like I don't see today as today. I see it like, okay, I'm gonna be there in the future, if that makes sense. And there's no ifs and no buts. It's like our first episode, I remember we were talking about Reese from, you know, the owner of Manière d'Ivoire, the clothing brand.
Yeah.
We were talking about him, and literally I was talking to my co-host at the time, and I was like, yeah, when we post this video, he's definitely gonna see it, blah blah blah. And he was like, nah man, he's a busy person, million of subscribers, his business is huge, he's not gonna see it, he may not be. I was like, trust me, he's gonna see it. Posted the video, and I think at like 1:00 at night time, I got a notification. Reese liked the video, Reese commented, he was like, yeah, I appreciate it, blah blah blah. And I was like,
see?
Yeah. So I always say like I'm a big believer in like speaking into existence.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
No, that's quite good. When it comes to then like your brands, obviously you've worked with a whole lot of brands. Has there ever been like any hard parts, whether that's networking, or did you ever have to like get rid of a brand, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I've got a lot of experiences there. So we've worked with over 250 brands.
Wow.
In various different capacities.
Yeah.
And it was a hard sell from the get-go because globally, when we think of black women, we immediately think of African American women.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think of a black woman in the UK when you hear black woman. You think of a black woman in the US.
Yeah, 100%.
And so when I was speaking to brands, they were like, the UK is not my priority. Like, American brands, the UK is not their priority.
It's because the demographic in
So much
America is so much bigger.
And they see it as a bigger opportunity. And then UK brands were like, again, black women are not their priority. Like, if you're a brand in the UK, we're 2% of the population. Like, they want to focus on not the 98%, but like at least the 90%, which are white.
Yeah.
So again, we're not the priority. So it was
100%.
like trying to sell something that I knew was an issue for our community to someone that belongs in another community who doesn't necessarily care.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, all right, cool. Well, if I can't get the message across, the best way to deliver a message, if you can't cut through, is like through numbers.
Yeah. 100%.
Because numbers don't lie. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to look up like how much black women spend in the UK, blah, blah, blah. And I could not find anything. I could only find information on African American consumers.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a nightmare because this actually isn't helping me validate anything. Fast forward to 2021, we released a white paper, which was like the first white paper or first piece of literature that actually documents how much black women spend in the UK, especially in the hair and beauty industry.
Yeah.
And that was like a massive full circle moment because it was like perfect. Like, there was such an issue with the lack of transparency of how much black consumers actually spend and our worth that brands weren't paying attention. And then I was able to present something to the industry that says like, boom, like, this is how much we're worth. This is how much we spend. Unfortunately, by that time, the brands were kind of on board.
Yeah.
But releasing that paper was definitely a tipping point because I saw people signing up from Tesco's, Morrison's, Mintel, like loads of different companies who were finally paying attention because they finally had the numbers to justify what they knew was an issue, but because they didn't have the numbers, they couldn't sell it to their management.
Yeah, because it's a numbers game at the end of the day.
It's absolutely a numbers game. Like, once people know what they're missing out on, then they get more interested. Because up until then, it was like, yeah, we know there's black women. For American brands, it was like, oh, there's black people in the UK?
UK.
Like, they didn't know. And then for UK brands, it was like, no, they don't spend enough. No, I don't think it's that much of an issue. And so it was literally like 5 years of fight. Even now, it's not as simple as it should be. But yeah, it was 5 years of like trying to validate how much, like the fact that there are black people in the UK, that they will spend money on your products if they just get the chance to try them.
100%. Look how many like beauty queens and packs they are. And not gonna lie, majority of the reason why there's so much is because of us. Like,
oh, we're the whole reason.
Yeah, we're the whole reason. And I think that's what baffles me a lot of the times. Like, that's why for me, like, this interview was important because when like growing up, I'd see my mum go to Beauty Queen or Packs or whatnot, get hair products from there. And I always used to think for myself, even at a young age, I'm like, why does not a black person own, like, I only see black people in these type of shops.
Yeah.
Why do we not own any? If that makes sense. Like, it really, really baffled me. And then like as I got older, I started to realize, especially in like the women's industry, because I was grown around like a lot of women, if that makes sense. I was raised by a whole community of women, and it was one of those situations where I realized, I was like, especially as you said, when you go to like, let's just say Tesco or your Boots or Superdrug, the variety of black hair products were very like limited, like super limited.
There was literally one brand.
Literally, and it made me think, I think the first ever black one I kind of saw was, obviously there was Palmer's and they used to do like I think it was like their curling creams and stuff, but the big ones that I started to see in Superdrug was Cantu at the time. And that alone, I think prices when they first came out was like £15 per like bottle or jar, and made me realize, like, in the like hair industry, I don't know, I feel like they don't accept diversity. I feel like they just realize that they like to think anyways that these products can just assume like it can cater for all women, if that makes sense. Whereas obviously as a black woman, our hair types or whatnot are so like different and diverse, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's like, I don't even want to say it's naivety. I don't think it's naivety. I think it's like laziness.
I think it's laziness as well. I feel like there's not enough people, I think, within the company to kind of say, why don't we look over there, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, that's the reason I don't necessarily bash them at times. Because if you're not aware to what's going on, you don't have someone probably within that demographic to kind of explain to you, look, this is an issue. Why don't we try over there? Then you kind of will never really realize, if that makes sense.
Social media is loud.
Yeah. To be fair, yeah, that's the thing.
When you're hiring and you're taking your team photos, you know there's not a black person in that photo.
And I think that's my biggest thing. Like, especially when I finished uni, I did sports management, but obviously I have a lot of business experience. So I was looking at like marketing jobs to begin with. And I don't know if anyone else does this. Like, let me know down below in the comments if you probably do. But I'd look at like, you know, when you click on the website and you'll see like our team, you get to scroll through. I would scroll through always and I'm like, okay, let me hope that I find like either an Asian person or a black person. And I would look and I'm like, oh, there's none. I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to do it. And I'll just look for another job. And like, some may call it like stuck up or whatever. But for me, there's just something there's something about walking into a room and seeing someone that looks like you, or like at least you feel like you can have a conversation and it will be understood, if that makes sense. I feel like it's very important in like the world and like within like workplaces, but I don't feel like it's pushed. And even if it does, I feel like it's forced now. I feel like they have certain percentages where they're like, yeah, we need this amount of black people, this amount of Asian, and I'm there just like, why does it have to be like that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, but again, if it gets measured, it gets managed. And without them putting them percentages, they are not making any progress or any steps in the right direction.
No, 100%.
But I will also say that the way that brands or companies have got around that issue of like going through the website and not seeing anyone is that now they ask the one black intern to come and take photos. And then they use that all across the website and all across the social media to make it seem like it's a diverse company, but it's actually not.
And then it's really not. So going more into like the business then around like costing, because like one thing I was thinking like with subscription boxes, especially from the box that you gifted me that time when I came down, and thank you again, my missus as well, she was like, thank you very much, she loved the box. We were looking at some of the products in there, and like when we were going into like Boots or Superdrug, like one item could be like £14, if that makes £13. And obviously I think your boxes range from 40 to 45, if I'm not wrong.
The subscription's £25 a month.
Yeah.
If you get it monthly, and then it goes up incrementally to about £35.
Okay, so when we were looking at that, I was like, I was intrigued to how does the company make money, if that makes sense? Because I was seeing it as like, okay, one product is like £13-14, but you probably get like 5-6 good products in there. So I was like, how do you go about making money? Is it through brands? Is it through the sponsorships? Like, I didn't know how it all worked.
Yeah, so for brands, Treasure Trust is a marketing tool.
Yeah.
So Boots and Superdrug are a retailer. Treasure Trust isn't necessarily a retailer.
Yeah.
We're a marketing tool for them. So we're the way that they can get their sample. We're the way that they can get samples of their products out to the consumer.
Yeah.
The only catch that we have, and something that I was non-negotiable on, is that I don't want sample sizes, because I can't tell if a product works well for me if I've only tried a little bit. Like, I want a decent sized bottle so I can use it 3 times and then make my decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't operate in the same way as retailers. We operate as a marketing tool that they can put the money behind through sponsorships.
Yeah.
Through additional fees, in order to make sure that their products get out there.
Yeah.
Into the hands of the right women that they wouldn't otherwise be able to target black, mixed race, multi-ethnic, curly men or women.
Yeah.
If they weren't working with Treasure Trust, really.
That's quite good. So it's like one big like marketing campaign, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's really good. That's a different way of like seeing it, if that makes sense. So adding on to that, I feel like with the brand and when it comes to networking, I've seen that you've recently, probably not recently, but you've partnered with, what's that woman called from Girlfriends?
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Yeah, and her products, I've just been hearing crazy reviews. Like when I gave it to my missus, she was like, that's one of the best products she has like used, and like she's seen on TikTok and stuff like that, and she was like, what's all the hype about? And then obviously when she got it, she was like, there's no other brand that she wants to use other than that. So when it came to that partnership, like, was it
First
you?
of all, I need that clip because that is like the whole point of Treasure Trust. Like, you see the hype,
Yeah.
but when you try it yourself and you know that it works, you become a loyal customer.
Yeah,
But
100%. So how did you make that like partnership with her? Because obviously she lives over in America. Was it she reached out to you, or was it like you reaching out to her? Like, how did that all like work, if that makes sense?
It all kind of came together serendipitously because
Hold on. Like, there's big words. So yeah.
it all came together perfectly.
That was an amazing word.
Because-
So wait, can you repeat that one more time for me?
Serendipitously.
What does that mean?
So like serendipity. So like everything happened at the same time, at the right time, and it all came together perfectly.
Yeah, your mum was definitely a teacher, but yeah.
But there was a few different ways. So one way was that obviously it's sold in retailers. And one of the first questions retailers ask brands are, how are you marketing?
Yeah.
And now a lot of brands are saying, oh, we're marketing through Treasure Trust.
That's good.
That's one way. Second way was when I was looking at who downloaded the trend report that we released.
Yeah.
Her team had downloaded it. So that meant that they knew of Treasure Trust through the data that we had put out there.
Yeah.
Third way was the distributors that they used to bring the products from the US to the UK. They were like, hey, what's your marketing plan? Treasure Trust.
Yeah.
So it's like in a few different ways, people were mentioning Treasure Trust. And then we got a meeting set up with them, agreed the feature, agreed the takeover box. Her team, absolutely exceptional. And they were like, yeah, we don't want to just do the box. Like, we want to do a sleeve. We want it to go above and beyond. And we were like, absolutely into it. We need to do something iconic.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until we were building the shop in Birmingham that we got a video from someone on her team, Amy on her team, and it was Tracy unboxing the video and I unboxing our boxes, and I was like, oh my days, this is literally a career highlight because she unboxed it. She said Treasure Trust properly, which is impressive because a lot of people mess it up. And she was able to explain what we are and like her focus and her passion for the UK curly girls, and it was just so epic. So it was in the pipeline for a long time because I was asking like retailers, distributors, like, hey, that pattern brand, I want it. Like, how can I get it?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, it's not ready yet. It's not UK compliant yet. Okay, how long is it until it's UK compliant? 2 years. Okay, cool. Hi, 1 year later. Hey, how's it going? Like, how long until that brand? Okay, cool. They just got listed in Boots. Perfect. Cool. How can we get it in the box? And then, so it was almost like Treasure Trust was being mentioned in rooms that I wasn't in.
That's
based on the work that we were doing.
That's amazing.
But equally, I was pursuing the brand and saying like, hey, when are you coming to the UK? Like, let's do a campaign. Let's make it big. So that
hunger was just like there, like it's just consistent. Yeah. That makes sense.
Like certain brands, when we see them, like there's brands that we pursue for like 3 years. That's why it's so frustrating when people are like, hey, I haven't seen this brand. And we're like, first of all, they need to get their compliancy correct. Like they need to make sure that it's formulated in a way that is acceptable for this country because the US and the UK are very, very different. And two, like I like people asking for brands in public. So like in our comment section on our page and tagging the brands.
It shows how
then it puts pressure on the brands that like there's women in the UK who want to try this. Like don't drag your feet with compliancy and all the other things because you're missing out on an opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's
so
100%.
Yes, a bit of give and take to make those epic moments.
That's crazy. Like big kudos to you because starting your brand from where you started it and to get someone as iconic as her, like partner in there, and plus as you said, like her doing a whole video, like that's a milestone.
I don't know how much we would have had to pay for that. Like I don't think we had the budget for that. But we literally got in an email, and I think it was like the night before we were opening the store.
Yeah.
Very stressful moments, and it literally like turned the whole thing around. I was like,
I could just imagine.
This is gonna be epic.
3 a.m. 3 a.m. You're just screaming, like looking at it, like what the hell?
I was like, oh my god. At first, I thought she was just gonna like hold the box.
Yeah.
But she explained everything perfectly, and I was like, this is so epic, man. She's a G.
No, that's quite good. So when it comes to like support, then obviously we've talked about like the support of your relationship, your husband, your friendship, and whatnot. But I think most importantly, as like a culture, do you feel like you're supported by, well, your brand is supported by the Black community, would you say?
I have to say yes.
Or do you feel like there's more that can be done?
I think there's lots of learning that we have to do. So I don't think we've seen businesses mature in the Black community the way the Asian community has or the white community has.
Yeah.
So like what you'll see you even see it in like the response to brands and founders who decide to exit their brands. They get like this huge backlash because they've decided to sell their business.
Yeah.
But selling your business is like such an everyday transaction in business for everyone else, but for the Black community,
And we see it as, oh, you sold out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we still got some education and some learning to do there. But yeah, Treasure Trust wouldn't be Treasure Trust without community. Like, Black women have stood behind Treasure Trust, told their friends, told their daughters, told their cousins.
Yeah.
I do think that as a Black business, you get held to like a ridiculous standard.
Yeah, 100%.
It does force us to be like, to always strive to be excellent and like over deliver.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can be to our own detriment, because it can get really exhausting because you're constantly trying to reach this level that no other brand is being held to. But equally, yeah, Treasure Trust wouldn't exist without Black women, even Black men telling their partners, their mums, their sisters.
Yeah.
So many Black men come into our pop-up shops when we have
Yeah, I
like,
remember you posted a video, and I think it was either two brothers or two twins or
oh, they are
something.
so damn cute.
And they came, they came down to get, I think it was either for their sister, their mom, or whatever it was.
They came 3 times each and bought boxes. And I was like, what? Like, no one can ever say that Black people don't support Black people, because we really do.
Nah, I feel like we really do. And I think especially within like the recent years, like obviously with there being COVID, George Floyd and all of those stuff that happened, I feel like that kind of really shed a light. I think that was one of the first times I actually seen Black people come together, weirdly enough. I feel like, especially in the UK, I feel like at times we're easily like divided, if that makes sense. So when all of those things were happening, and I think it's the creators of the Black Pound Day and stuff like that.
Yes.
That was one of the first times I really saw like, okay, Black people, like it was really such a thing. Okay, support Black businesses. At first I was against it. The only reason why, because it was one of those things I was like,
How long is it going to last?
one, how long is it gonna last? And then two, it was one of those situations I was like, why do we need a day that we choose to support Black businesses? Like, the other cultures support their businesses every single day, like if that makes sense. So why do we kind of have to highlight one day, let's just say, to be like, okay guys, we need to support? I feel like if you're going to support something, it should just come natural, if that makes sense. But then as I kind of did my research and started to understand it, I was like, it is important. Even though it's just one day, I feel like it sheds a light of what type of other businesses they are out there. And then for me myself, like I made it like a huge priority of mine, like to make sure I'm supporting, because I'm always like, oh, why isn't our community growing? Why isn't that this? But then I have to look at myself. I'm like, but what am I doing? Like, I'm just complaining.
What role are you playing?
Yeah, I'm not playing a role. So I always make it my absolute like thing to, even if I'm buying clothes, I'll research first. Like, okay, what upcoming brands are there first, and I'll give it a try. So far, I haven't had certain lucks. Like, I've ordered from a few companies. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna order again. But at least I make the first transaction to make sure I'm helping, I'm supporting. If that
I would
makes
say
sense.
even with that, like the ones that you've tried that you think, oh, do you know what, I'm not going to order again.
Yeah.
I don't know if you already do this, but reaching out to them and giving feedback privately, not publicly on their Trustpilot or on their Instagram page, reaching out to them privately to say like, hey,
I actually did that, you know. Yeah. So I remember there was this one brand, because I really liked their joggers at the time. They came out with like cargo joggers, which I hadn't seen like about. So I bought it, and the fit was a bit off, stitching was a bit off, and instead of running to social media like I feel like a lot of us do, I don't know why, maybe it's for clout or something, I was like, you know what, let me just find the owner. And I just messaged him. I was like, hi, thank you, received your product. However, with me also having my own previous brand before, I know the type of things to look for. So I was like, oh, this was slightly off, maybe you should try this, maybe you should try that. And he was like, oh, thank you, I really respect it. I didn't realize we're probably going to hit the drawing board back again, because I feel like you can't always get things perfect. No. There's no such thing as perfection. And at times, unfortunately, it could just be one dodgy product. Maybe it wasn't the whole brand. Maybe it was just that one thing, if that makes sense. So I totally agree with you. I'm big on at least mentioning to people, you could do this, because I feel like when it comes to feedback, when it comes to constructive criticism, it can help that brand or that person progress, if that makes sense. It's 100% important.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. That's really good. So when it comes to then like the brand, and obviously it's grown and whatnot, and then stepping into 2023, separating from the brand, what type of goals have you kind of set that you said, you know what, I'm going to work towards? Like, what's the next step? What, like, for yourself then?
For me personally,
for you
as opposed to Treasure Trust?
Yeah.
For me personally, it's actually to take better care of myself.
Yeah.
Because I bootstrapped Treasure Trust for 7 years, which means that like it has been a ridiculous amount of sweat equity.
Yeah.
So like long hours, traveling wherever I need to travel, like just going absolutely ham.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I prioritize my self-care, and not in terms of like deep conditioners and facials, because that stuff I do.
Yeah.
But it's like, am I getting enough sleep? Am I being consistent with the gym? Am I like taking care of my actual physical body and like my actual mental health? So
Yeah.
I found a new therapist last year who's absolutely amazing, and signed up to a new health center so that I can benefit from gym, sauna, steam room, and like really take care of myself. Clearly didn't eat because my belly's rumbling. Take better care of myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main thing for me, to like invest in myself and take better care of myself. And invest in myself is like, what price am I willing to pay to access new circles and to learn new knowledge? Because again, previous years, like my investments were like, okay, cool, let me go this place to meet this person for Treasure Trust. But actually, no, like, who do I need to meet to expand my mind, which will ultimately have a knock-on effect on my business and whatever other businesses I decide to start.
Yeah.
So this year, I think the biggest investment I've ever made was going to Necker Island.
Yeah. I saw that. Was it
yeah.
Richard Branson?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I saw that, and I was like, "That's crazy that you even got connections with Richard Branson." How was that like? Because him being, I assume he's a billionaire now. Multi-billionaire. I was like, how does that feel being in the presence of, like, let's just say, as you as a kid growing up, you may not think you're going to be around certain like circles or whatnot, but to you, like, being on the island, you have literally a billionaire across from you, or you're having conversations with the whole team and whatnot. Like, what is that experience like?
I think I'm a little bit like you, where you said like you're just a bit unrealistic. Like, I'm quite delusional.
Yeah.
Like, there was no. My goal is to own a private island.
Yeah.
So me being on a private island
crazy.
was like, yeah, I deserve to be here. Like, there was a part of me that was before like, oh my God, like, are there going to be other black girls there?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to be there? And I was like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm going to this island. I want to see what it's like, because if I want an island of myself, I need to get familiar.
Yeah.
And the mad thing is, like, when we speak about speaking things into existence, way back, me and my friend had this running joke that we're going to buy an island and we're going to like split the name between our surnames.
Yeah.
And so way back in 2016, when I was doing my vision board, I put a picture of an island on there. And then as I was packing for Necker Island, I thought, do you know what? I don't actually know what this island looks like.
Yeah.
So then I Googled it, and it was literally the same image, the exact same image that I had on my vision board since 2016.
That's crazy.
And I got chills, and I think I even got tears in my eyes, because I was like, this is mad.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that I was going in the right direction, but that was confirmation that, like, yeah, you're absolutely meant to be going on this trip.
Yeah.
Because this is the island that you've had on your vision board for all of those years, and you've been like subconsciously just taking it in. And then I was like, wow, I'm actually going to the island.
Be there, yeah.
So it was literally one of the best experiences of my life.
I'm
I've
happy
never
for
been
you.
to such a beautiful island.
Yeah.
And then as far as what it felt to be like amongst Richard Branson, very fine. Like, I think it makes you dream even bigger, because you realize he's such an ordinary person.
Yeah, they're just normal people, like
Such
you
an
and me.
ordinary person. He was just walking around the island, talking to everyone.
Yeah.
He had a bit of a cold, so he was a lot more subdued than I think he usually is.
Yeah.
But he was literally like, hey, I hear a London accent. And literally it's a
Conversation. That is crazy.
So it makes you realize that, as you said, like literally no one is out of reach.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I was coming back from Necker Island, and there was this group chat that was created, and I was looking back at the pictures, and I thought, like, yeah, just laughing back at all the memories.
Yeah.
And then I saw that there was a picture that was put in the group by someone called Richard.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no way Richard Branson's in this WhatsApp group.
He was in the WhatsApp.
He was in the WhatsApp group the whole time. And I was like, no one is inaccessible.
No, that's 100%. I like the fact that you've told that story, because one, like, it doesn't only just give me like motivation, because I'm listening to that, I'm like, that is crazy, if that makes sense. But then I'm hoping that the people that are listening at home or in their car, whatever it is, it's one of those ones where they're like, wait, if she can do it, then why can't I? Because how I see it, it's just like a person like Richard Branson, once upon a time, before he had his businesses, he was just, well, he is still a normal person, but he was just a normal person going to school, like me and you.
Dyslexic, normal person that was told that, like, oh no, like, just give up.
Yeah.
And decided to pursue something, and then watched it evolve, well, made it evolve and like pivoted so many different times
Yeah.
to create so many different entities of Virgin.
Yeah.
Now it's like, definitely one of the biggest brands
Yeah.
on earth.
Nah, it blows my mind. So tying it up then, I feel like when it comes to like having that circle and that connection around you, do you have a mentor? Have you ever had like mentors in the past or whatnot?
have.
Because I feel like I always speak, especially like within my close circle, I have myself a mentor, and I always say like, to me, I always push people. If that's one thing I could say, everyone should get a mentor, because it's important to have someone that's either experienced life already and can kind of share those like experiences with you, or whether that's within the business field, someone that's had their business and failures and whatnot, they can point you in certain directions so you can either avoid them, or at least it's going to give you certain more knowledge on how to like handle it when it comes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how important would you say like having a mentor is?
Transformational.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, I don't think my 20s would have been as epic as they were had I not had a mentor.
Yeah.
And I know that it was epic because I was invited to Necker Island by one of my mentors, because he was the host at Necker Island.
That's crazy.
So everyone's like, how did you get there? Like, how'd you get there? Like, how'd you travel there? No, you can't just travel there.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be invited.
Yeah.
And I was invited because my mentor, not really we're more friends now, but maybe like 5 years ago, we were speaking every 2 weeks. He was like, hey, Jamelia, how's this going? How's this going? How's this going?
Yeah.
And funny story about that. First of all, he's a white American guy that I would have never met on a regular day in London.
Yeah.
I was in Atlanta coming back from one of the hair shows. I was 2 hours early for my flight. So I was just walking around the airport, found a juice bar, thought, okay, cool, let me get a juice. There was this white guy standing behind me. He was like, hey, I like your watch. And I was like, thanks. Started talking about the watch.
Yeah.
What do you do? I was like, I'm working full time, but I'm launching this brand. He was like, oh, okay, I own this company, cosmetics, personal care company. We're sold in Walmart. We're sold in Target. I was like, amazing. Would love to stay in contact.
Yeah.
Stayed in contact. And then, as I said, had those like bi-weekly calls, built a relationship, and then have continued to go. Like, we don't have those same kind of calls now.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, how's it going? Like,
checking in.
This is what I'm facing. This is what I'm facing. But he went last year, and I was like, Necker Island looks sick. How was it? He was like, oh, it was so good. Like, do you want to come? And I was like, of course. So, then it goes to show that, like, it's absolutely important to have mentors that are further ahead than you.
Yeah.
I also think there's huge upside to having mentors who have a completely different life.
Yeah,
from you.
100%.
Because as I said, he's not someone that I would have met on a day-to-day. But equally, I have had other mentors in the past that are like black women who look like me, a little bit older than me.
Yeah.
Actually, like 5 years older than me. Who have done what I've done, or like people who are experienced in sectors that I'm getting into, so I can learn from them.
Yeah.
I think there's huge value in having multiple, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I feel like it is very important, because with a mentor, it's one of those ones where they give you knowledge that you probably haven't heard before. They give you direction. It's like having, I don't know, it's like a parent in a sense,
Literally.
but it's more of a more more professional manner. And I feel like especially when you have the right mentors or mentor behind you, it's like the sky's your limit, if that makes sense. Like, I remember I've had 2 so far. There's one literally down in London. That he's a doctor, and he was basically like for the mental state, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, when we would talk, we would have like mental stimulating like conversations, if that makes sense. That kind of improves my motivation, allows me to continue to be like more inspired. And then in Birmingham, I've got a mentor that's in the property business, because short term really, that's where the field that I kind of want to get. I want to buy some property, I want to invest, etc. So I feel like having mentors in the spaces that you kind of potentially want to go in, it helps, because I can ask a million, instead of like Googling, I can literally just pick up the phone. So what do you like? How do you do this? Or can I just come to your office, and can I spend the day with you? How do you deal with clients? And I feel like having like that type of outlet can literally like project you so far, if that makes sense. Especially if you're younger, like even when you're older, it doesn't matter. Like, but from a young perspective, because I feel like when you're younger, you could be ahead, if that makes sense, of your age. But because of your age, I feel like some people tend to look down on you, so you're unable to get certain experiences. But if you have a mentor, like I wish I had a mentor at 16.
Yeah.
Like if that was the case, I feel like obviously I'm right where I need to be at the moment, but I feel like if I was exposed to a different type of knowledge rather than just school textbook knowledge, if that makes sense, it's like you can go so much further, if that makes sense, which I feel like it is important.
I completely agree.
No, 100%. So wrapping it up, I feel like obviously we've spoken about business, we've spoken about the past, how you started, friendship groups. What type of advice then, if you could give 2 strong advice to either people that are watching, listening, what advice would you give someone, a little girl, little boy, whatever, growing up and saying, okay, I want to start a business, not necessarily hair business, but just in general, I want to start a business. What would you say to them? Or what would you even say to your younger self? If you could go back to when you were 15, 16 or whatnot, what would you say to yourself?
Just get started with what you have. Because I think a lot of the time we're like, oh, do you know what? When I get this website or when I get this web designer or when I get this, then I'm going to... No, start with what you have. Get someone you don't know to buy it. And then continue to learn from that customer and then just keep repeating. Like, just start where you are with what you have and stop trying to make excuses.
That's actually very good advice. But on that note, I just want to say again, thank you very much for your time, for you just coming down. Like, I really appreciate it. So
thank you, guys.
Thank you. And it's been a pleasure. For those that are listening, watching, if you want to see a potential part 2 in the future, as the brand continues to go, obviously let us know down below if you like it. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, make sure you share. But it's Get Back season and we'll catch you again for another episode. Take care, guys.
This is Get Back season, baby.